Kogi from creativekogi.com, and it is Thursday, the 31st of August. It's been a while since I've been on here. I now, for the life of me, cannot remember the last time I came on. It might have been sometime in July. I'm not very good at being consistent at these at making videos, but I'm coming to you from South Africa. We are now exiting winter and going into spring, so I shouldn't really be wearing this. This is rather warm for today. I'm also not sitting in the spot that I usually sit at because there's quite a lot of light coming in through the windows, and reflecting off my glasses too. So I've actually moved, because I've got a wheelie chair, so I've just moved myself to another spot in the room, and I'm sitting at my sewing cutting table, and at some point I will have to show you this cutting table. And I will see if I can actually insert, well, maybe not today. It's very untidy, but literally what this cutting table is my son's baby crib, and we turned it upside down, and Roger helped me create a little sort of tabletop, so the top lifts up and I can store things underneath. And this was sort of sitting outside and my dogs chewed off the ends, so I literally, I'll see if I can there we go. I've literally taken a pool noodle and I slit it down the center and then threaded it along the edge to cover the bitten edges. So yeah, I'm yeah. I really wanted to kind of keep it and still use it for a different purpose. So yeah, we're quite good at repurposing stuff. So yeah, it's been a while, as I've said, since I've been here. What have I been doing? I have been doing lots. I want to quickly put this pair of socks onto this blocker to show you. I took it off because I wanted to work away the ends, which I haven't quite managed to do, but I finished this. How gorgeous are these colors, hey? So this is the Valmiera Memories Socks by Zanetta Knits. This was a test knit. I was very, very excited and felt very honored and privileged to be included in the test knitting team, and especially for socks as well. So for those of you who have watched my previous videos or follow me on Instagram or Ravelry will know that I knitted my very first pair of socks in 2020 during COVID, and I did it as a sock along. So I had a few people join me on the sock journey, and as I said also in a previous episode, that this year was going to be all about socks, and I'm not really very good at following through on my own plans. So I was very excited when I saw the call for this test knitted, and I applied thinking I'm never really going to get in, but I did, and it was really an awesome knit. I thoroughly enjoyed this. So it's very funky because you'll see that the main color on one is the contrasting color on the other. I also have knitted a few toe up socks, but the heel is done in a kind of short row method, not the typical. When you knit from the cuff down, you have a reinforced heel that you can't, the heel flap, you knit it separately, then you pick up stitches on either side of it, which can get a little bit fiddly. I think that is the part that I think I least enjoy, is when I'm having to pick up those stitches. But this method of knitting this pair of socks was awesome. I'm going to pull this off to show you. Oh, these are my Naughty Habit what are they, sock blockers. Right. So yeah, so it's knitted from the toe up. Firstly, there's this fascinating method to cast on, which I've never done before. and I can't for the life of me remember now what it is called, but I will link to the video on how to do this. It's amazing because then there's no seam and it's just continuous. And then you knit, um, and obviously according to your measurements, and then you start the gusset shaping underneath. So it's almost like what you see when you put your sock on. You almost see a triangle before you do the heel flap, and there's zero picking of stitches. So it's not a fiddly method of knitting socks at all. I haven't actually seen this method anywhere else. So I would buy the I would, yes, buy the pattern just for the method of making the socks, even if I didn't want to do the color work. So this pattern was released yesterday, and if you look on my Instagram and Facebook page, you'll see that there's a code for 20% off the pattern. So that's the Valmiera Memories Socks, and I think, yeah, it's such an awesome knit. Behind me here is another test knit that I finished. I was a little bit late on this one. And you'll remember that I'd said I was going to frog it and start over because I didn't like the stitch definition on how I had been doing the cable. Because literally I was knitting the cable without a cable needle, but literally picking the stitch off, holding it, knitting the next stitch, and then putting the stitch back in. And I saw this method in another pattern that I was test knitting, which just seemed so much easier, and just makes the stitches pop a little bit more, I think. And what this has also is this wonderful pattern down the side of the same sort of cable stitch, and it just adds, I think it just, yeah, it's not just then stocking stitch because you also have that, but I would have loved for it to continue along the sleeve. So if ever I had to redo this, I will have to figure out how to carry it all the way along the sleeve, because I think that would just be such a nice feature to the pattern. So this is I've mentioned this before. It's a pattern by Kirsten Michelle. Again, I'll link to it in the comments. I don't think it's released yet. She did say that she was going to release it in the fall, and she's from Poland, so the fall or autumn is probably now. So I'd say the pattern's coming out in September maybe, but all of these details are on my project page. So yeah, you could, I think what I'll do is I'll also link to Kirsten Michelle's Ravelry page so you can have a look to see when it is released if you are keen on knitting something like this. This is knitted in 100% merino. It is a South African yarn that I used. Do I have a ball lying here? No. It's yes, it's the El Merino, and I think on this one, so I have knitted with El Merino before. I love it. It's super soft, easy to work with. It's very rare that you'd find a join in the yarn, like in the middle of a ball, but it's only a 50-gram ball anyway. And this one, I think because I had frogged it and I'd started knitting it again, I found that it pulled a little, but not so bad. I just used one of those pulling machine goodies and kind of yeah, I just took that fluff away, but otherwise I think it's great. I've not washed it yet. I will have to do that at some point, so we'll see how it does in the wash. I do have some other colors of the same yarn and some patterns in mind that I would like to knit. So I actually am, yeah, I'm feeling quite relaxed at the moment because there aren't really any urgent deadlines. I haven't signed up for more test knits at the moment. And what I have been doing actually is just looking through my stash and trying to figure out how to reduce it. And one of the ways is the beanies that I spoke about in the last episode. And I decided, so most of the beanie patterns out there are knitted in the flat, and then they are seamed. And I just think a seam on a baby's very soft head is is probably not the best. I mean, it's easy to knit in the flat. I think it's easier to knit in the flat. But I mean, why? When we have magic loop or double pointed needles, why do you have to seam? Just knit in the round. So I've been working on knitting in the round, and so I was trying out different stitch counts. You'll see I've got one of these little light bulb stitch markers here. So this one was 64 stitches, and then I did a basic basket weave pattern. So this one is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So this is 25 rounds. So cast on 64, knit 1, purl 1 rib for 6 to 8 rounds. I've done 8 rounds, and then 25 rounds in a pattern or stocking stitch, and then start shaping for the crown. And literally then you just work away the tail when you pull through. Well, you use your needle and you go through all the stitches and take them off the needle, and you pull through and then stitch it up, and then you work away the cast on edge, the tail from the cast on edge. So this for me, I don't have any babies around to really measure, but this for me looks like it would be perfect for 0 to 3 months, and then a newborn, I think 56 stitches. So this, you can see I've got 56 stitches. Same method, except here I've got 5, 10, 15, 20 rounds. And it's the way I've done it to kind of keep count is I've done, 4 knits, 4 purl, but across 5 rounds, just to make it easier to count. And then the crown shaping is exactly the same. So I will, as soon as I have a bit of time, I will write this up, and I will also provide the measurements of these, and I'll post it on the website, and I will also post it on Ravelry. It is for charity knitting, so it will be completely free. So yeah, I tried a few. So this is the same pattern. This is 56 stitches. I just find when I use a multiple of 8, it's easy to shape the crown. Of course, it could be anything. I just find it easier. Also, I have a pattern dictionary, and a lot of the pattern repeats across 8 stitches. So it just 8 seems to be the magic number for knitting. So this is knitted in just stocking stitch. It's like mindless knitting, but when it's done with this kind of yarn, it just creates a nice pattern, I think. So I don't think this kind of yarn needs any fancy stitches. Plain stockinette will do. And with knitting, the fabric is very stretchy. So that's the other thing that I like, is because when you want to give or when you want to make beanies for charity, you also want to make sure that the baby is going to get maximum wear out of it. I mean, I know my kids completely grow out of their clothes so quickly. Sometimes they'd wear something just once, and then it's just not fitting them anymore. But knitting has that stretch, so they could still wear it, for a while. I think it would stretch with wear, and then it gives you sort of a longer time for use. I've also been fiddling with crocheting again. Yeah, it doesn't have the same level of stretch as knitting does. So I think my preferred baby beanie would be a knitted one, even though crocheting goes so much faster. I just think that the knitted beanie just has so much more stretch, and it would just fit so much more comfortably. So it's not going to be uncomfortable, but also it would give you longer use. But it's just my personal view. I had said in I said in many previous episodes that I have a blanket pattern that has been tested, and all I needed to do was re-crochet it. I could just ask actually someone to help me redo it, but Kogi control freak has to do it herself. So I've been practicing getting my hands to get into the rhythm of crocheting again. And I thought, why not just use my own pattern? So you know when you walk away from something, you haven't seen it for a long time, and you walk away from it, and then you return to it and try and work it again, is when you start spotting the tiny little edits. Like, instead of saying if, I said is, or instead of saying, you know, or leaving out the or the and or whatever. So I have been spotting them in the pattern. This is the not just your basic granny square pattern. We ran it as a knit along on Facebook. I think this would have been, wait, let me check, 2020, yeah. It does say so on the last page. So it was in 2020. We did it over how many days? Let me see. We did it over 18 days. So it's actually not one of those difficult patterns that will take forever and a day to complete. We literally ran it over 18 days, and I released a few rounds every day. So I think in the beginning there were more rounds, and then as the days progressed and the blanket got larger, there were fewer rounds. Like, I'm looking now quickly on day 12, we only had 2 rounds. Day 13, 2 rounds, day 14, 2 rounds. So it's really such a quick and easy pattern. And it's taking your basic granny square pattern, but just adding a little bit of a twist to it, just to make it just a little bit more exciting. So I have a ton of this yarn. It's called Love Knitting. It is super soft. It is super soft and squishy. And when I bought it, and I think I have said many times, I'm a hoarder and also a bit of a shopaholic. So yeah, I'm a good customer to have for local yarn shops. But I got this at my local yarn shop, the Wool Shop, and I bought several packs of it, not just 1 or 2 balls, because that's me. And the idea was to make a lot of blankets for charity, and also because I don't like joining. I'm not a color change person, or I'm not good at choosing colors, but also because I hate working away the ends. And when you give away something, you've got to make 100% sure that that end is securely worked away, because if it's your own and it unravels, you can quickly darn it up. But when you give it away, you want to make sure that that blanket's going to last forever, literally. So working with yarn like this, where it is sort of self-patterned or self-striped, means there's fewer joins. And in this ball of yarn, I've actually haven't come across a join, like a manufacturer's join. So it is a continuous, it's 150 grams. I can't tell you how many meters are in here. But so there's no join. So you just kind of keep crocheting. And I've decided I'm going to do my pattern. And yeah, I think it works well with the yarn. This is the first ball, and I am now on row 22, I think. Not row, round. I'm going in the round. On round 22, so I will need another ball in a bit maybe, but I have packs of this yarn, and so I could do a few of these also, because they are such simple stitches. And for me, I just need to see, what does this round mean? I don't need to actually count it anymore. So I don't have to concentrate on it. So this is definitely a beginner pattern. It is available on the website, absolutely free for anyone who wants to use it. Download it. Well, you can't download it, you have to use it off the website. The only thing on the website is it does have adverts that pop up, which might be quite annoying for you. So there is a paid version. It's only $2. It's not a lot. But yeah, it's just $2 on Ravelry. I'll link to that. So yeah, that is all I really have to show. I haven't done too much sewing. And then yeah, what else to share? I want to also keep this short. My tummy is starting to growl. I'm super hungry. It's lunchtime. Um, I was watching a podcast yesterday actually, and it's called The Pine Cottage. And I found it fascinating, completely fascinating. And I will link to this particular episode also in the show notes, description, whatever below that comes below the video. And what it was all about was really about minimalistic living. And obviously, it's not something that I do. I am maximalistic living, which bothers me. And I think I have mentioned this in a previous episode that all this yarn that I've accumulated over the years, for whatever reason, I mean, I walk in and I think, oh, I might do this or I might do that, or um, just buying on impulse, buying at sales with no real purpose in mind. So has um, ended up with me having quite a substantial yarn stash. And what I have felt more recently is that when I choose a project, um, I want to actually buy the yarn specifically for that project, and I want to have the not necessarily the yarn that is called for in the pattern, because sometimes it's not available, and I don't really want to pay exorbitant shipping costs. But it is exciting. Um, you know, I know I've done this with Naughty Habit. I've mentioned Naughty Habit now a few times, so I'll have to link to Naughty Habit below. But I was test knitting another one of Kirsten Michelle's projects. It was a cardigan, and I sent the picture um, to Mincy from Naughty Habit, and I said, this is what the pattern calls for in terms of quantities. Help me put colors together. And she put together the most amazing palettes that was specially dyed for this project in red and shades of gray, and it was just absolutely stunning. And that had brought me so much joy. So I want to be able to do that. And I have mentioned before also on Fruity Knitting, where Andrea says that she doesn't have a yarn stash, so she has a project in mind and she goes out and she buys the yarn for that project. And I look around my craft room slash study, and I think I don't, well, I think that I don't think I would ever get to that point of being able to do that, because I have just collected so much over the years. And even with giving away bags of yarn, I still have a lot. And I still think, oh, I could do this or I could do that. And so what I've decided to do is go back to the reason as, for why I had bought the particular yarn. And it really was for charity projects. And acrylic also, because you don't have to worry about how it's going to be washed. Not everybody, like in South Africa, not everybody has access to all the things that we sometimes take for granted, like open the tap and have water running. Sometimes people have to walk great distances to collect water. So not everybody has electricity or the ability to wash things in a washing machine. And so often it's these blankets are hand washed and they're just hung over lines or the fence or whatever to dry. And acrylics just do better. They don't need to be precious. You don't have to be precious about it when you wash it. So they just fare better. And then you're going to get a longer use out of it. They are also incredibly warm. They might not be as breathable as wool is, And I have said before that I have continental cushions on my bed. I've had them since 2015 maybe. They get thrown into the washing machine. They were made with charity yarn, the brand Charity, which is also a local South African yarn, which is very reasonably priced. I haven't bought it in a long time, so I don't know what it is per 100 grams, but I think at the time it would have been around 20 Rand for 100 gram, which is like 280 meters or so. So you're able to make really big blankets out of charity yarn. And if you're doing charity work and you want to do a lot, it is really an affordable yarn. And mine, for myself, it's lasted years. There might have been a little bit of pilling, but it still looks great. And we still have it in our bed. Yeah, several years later, we still have it. So yeah, so the thing why I'd mentioned the Pine Cottage quickly. So she was talking about, this minimalism in your life, like at one stage having just tons of shoes and now having only 3 or 4 pairs, and just having a few t-shirts and maybe one pair of jeans and not having so much. And I also mentioned in a previous episode that this whole concept of downsizing and only having what you need is really appealing to me. And I really want to use up all of that yarn stash. I also want to declutter because I have a closet full of clothing, and there are some items in my closet that have sat there for several years and have not been worn. And I keep thinking someday I'm going to wear it, maybe. And so I'm on this mission now to be mindful about what I buy, what I spend on, and I'm so tempted every single time when there's a sale, or when there's kits, for knit along. I want one so badly too. So it's sort of just me trying to be a little bit more conscious, mindful about what I buy and why I'm buying it, and also not to be surrounded by so much. So I'm really trying to use up what is in the cupboard, and I mean, packs of these. Can you believe it? I've got packs of these, not just 1 or 2 balls. So yes, I don't have any deadlines. We are coming out of winter now, so it's going to be a long time before I need to do sweaters again. And in fact, Natalia will wear colored clothes, casual clothes, only for 1 year, just one more year, and then she's in a uniform, a school uniform. So she's not going to even get use out of the sweaters and whatever that I have been making for her. So literally I have 1 year left before she's in a school uniform. So yeah, so I think I'm going to see where I get to with the charity blankets, try and whittle down the stash a bit. And yes, there's always projects I want to make for myself, and just look at which ones I really want to do, and then not go out and buy the yarn, but use the yarn that I have purchased. I mean, I have so much. I have so much, and I'm looking straight ahead of me because I have shown you before. All my fancy yarn is in these boxes that are piled up. So that's my plan. What else has been happening? Well, not really anything exciting to share. Not too much sewing or cross stitching or anything of that. Yeah, in terms of reading, what have I been reading recently that has been great? Hmm. Robert Bryndza. That's what I read. Robert Bryndza has a new novel out. It would have been released last month, I think, or what are we in now? Today's the last day of August, right? So July. I think it was released at the beginning of July, and I'd pre-ordered it on Audible. Brilliant. I would definitely recommend it. Um, and so yes, I think that is all I have to share. And just take good care of yourselves. Be safe wherever you are, and just happy crafting. And whatever it is that you're doing, I really hope it brings you joy and happiness, and you are absolutely loving it. And so I'm off to go and get myself something to eat, and hopefully see you soon. And I do hope you enjoy some of the clips and the videos that I'm going to now insert in this of the Kruger National Park, which is so well worth a visit and one of my favorite places to be. Until next time, bye.
I've realized that I have decided to include photographs of the Kruger National Park without providing the context. Last week, I attended the International Association for Impact Assessment, the South African affiliate conference that was held in Skukuza at the Kruger National Park, and I had a presentation. I also included a little video clip that my dear friend Gwen had taken because she wanted to show me how I talk with my hands, and I seem to do that a lot. So, as part of the conference, we got to go on a night game drive where we saw a pack of hyena, and uh, we had some time out on the next day. And when we drove out, we saw that same pack again, and this time also got to see the babies. What are they called? Pups. So I also have some footage of some of the other animals that I've included here, and then I'm just going to let the music play and you can enjoy the rest of the images. Until next time, bye.